So this is the forward cabin of SeaMoose, and during the reconstruction prior to the loop, basically everything forward of these bulkheads was completely torn off and rebuilt and built new. So the walls, the ceiling, the fiberglass, all of it is brand new construction. This has also been modified. This is the normal piece that came from the factory that would sit here to turn this into a bed. We custom made this larger piece, which makes this actually quite comfortable, and it's just big enough that you can open this door and have room to open it. The two of us were able to sleep up here very, very comfortably. The original ship's electrical panel from 1975 is fairly old, and I was concerned that it wouldn't deliver the right amount of power to the electronics and the critical systems of the boat. So what I did is I built a secondary electrical panel back here. The wiring is behind this in the closet, as you'll see in a minute. So there's 8-gauge wire run to both batteries, which goes into this switch, which allows you to run this panel off of the house bank, the start bank, or both at once. So this drives the chart plotter, the radar, the compass, the VHF, and the secondary VHF, which is AIS. These monitor the battery voltage. This is bank 1, this is bank 2. SeaMoose has two 30-amp connectors for shore power and a generator. So what this does is it allows you to either run the boat off of one 30-amp plug or the generator, or run it off of 2 plugs. And when you run it off of 2 plugs, that gives you bus 2, which is this 30-amp breaker, which is wired straight to the air conditioner. That way you don't put a heavy load on the ship's power when you're running the air conditioner. So essentially this is saying right now that the air conditioner is hooked to bus 1, and if you put this in generator, then bus 1 and bus 2 are on the generator, and if you put this to shore 2, the air conditioner is on the secondary shore panel, and this controls the generator switch. So you have a lot of flexibility about how you're going to power the boat and how the power is going to work. This is a carbon monoxide detector, obviously a double duplex 110 on shore power. So when I rebuilt this, I put this oak beadboard on the walls and bent it to fit. This is an original piece, this is new, and this is actually soffit material for a house that makes a very nice ceiling and ventilates. I also put 2 inches of foam insulation in the roof so that it doesn't get so hot. And then if you look along here, these cabinets are cedar lined, and here's one of the vents for the air conditioner. The original design of the boat had a head forward and a head aft. I didn't really need 2 heads, and when you're on the loop you're going to need a lot of storage space. So we converted this forward head into a multi-purpose storage closet. So it's been cedar lined, which keeps your clothes nice and dry and smelling nice. This shelf comes out if you want to, but it allows you to make a 2-level storage system. Underneath there is a washdown pump, so you can clean off your anchor and wash down the decks, and this is wired for a 12-volt cooler. So we kept a 12-volt cooler down here, and we used the enormous shelf in there that you can just barely see to store our vegetables and potatoes and things of that nature that didn't need refrigeration. A couple of Sterlite containers stacked on that side holds an amazing amount of supplies, and then this leaves you a nice big closet, so you have lots of room for hanging clothes. This small television is connected to the ship's outside antenna and amplifier. That would be the anchor locker. We have 90 feet of 5/8 chain. That may not sound like a lot, but 5/8 chain is suitable for a 50-foot boat, so that chain holds it very, very well. What you're seeing here in the shadow is the circuit breaker for the bow thruster so that you don't overload it. And then here up on the ceiling, you've got a brand new Lumar hatch, which is also screened. So it gives you a really nice ventilation with the hatch open and the screen on the aft door back there. It makes a nice airflow through the boat. And last but not least, this light is both a night light and a regular light. This hanging locker is where we stored all of our foul weather gear, and there's several critical systems in here. This box up against the wall protects all of this wiring, and this is where the NEMA 2000 bus is connected up and terminated. There's a battery charger here which is dedicated to the battery, which is for the windlass and the bow thruster. And then you can see the vent for the air conditioning, and the ship's main electrical panel is back here. The ship's electrical panel has been significantly cleaned up from what it was when I bought the boat, and there's a whole lot of new wiring in here. The new owner, I will be happy to walk them through this and show them where the circuits are and how everything works. SeaMoose is powered by a chain drive system. The chain drive for the pilot house is here, and for the forward station, and then there's a shaft that runs back. It's very old school and very reliable. We didn't have any problems with it. The sole in the V-berth had a little bit of rot in it, and so it's been completely replaced with a brand new sheet of 3/4 inch marine plywood cut to fit, and of course covered with this beautiful red carpet and padding. Over here on both sides you have two small drawers for small items, and then you have the locker underneath, which runs all the way forward, and under here is where the bow thruster is located. It's a Vetus bow thruster that we'll look at from the other side, and from here you can get a really nice look at the cedar that I used to line the sides of the shelf with. This is the aft cabin of SeaMoose, and it is absolutely enormous and very comfortable. These doors lead to the aft deck. This hatch slides back, and we have a screen that snaps into this with the hatch open, and that allows you to open the forward hatch and leave this screen here and get a nice breeze through the boat when you're at anchor. Over on this side is a single berth, not really all that comfortable to sleep in, so we used it for storage. We had 3 large Rubbermaid storage containers that we held in with a tie-down strap. I'll show you that in a minute. On this side is a full-size bunk that's just a little bit smaller than a twin bed. 2 people can sleep in it if they're really, really friendly, but it's very, very comfortable for 1 person. And then here's the head, which I'll show you in a minute. Here we have drawers that are quite large. This is where I kept socks and t-shirts. The floor was completely torn out and rebuilt, and underneath the floor is concrete that they used to seal the ballast. That concrete was refreshed and then painted with 2 coats of Kills so that it wouldn't become smelly when it got wet. Down here we have an enormous shoe locker. This goes all the way back to that aft bulkhead, and you can put 15 pairs of shoes in here, no problem. So I'm 6 feet 2 inches tall, and I have room to wiggle my feet, and I got room for my head, but this is right in front of my face. But this bunk is definitely big enough to sleep in, and I have slept in it before, and if you're in a really rolly anchorage, it's kind of nice because you got this wall to brace up against. We have this enormous locker. This locker contains the air conditioning system. So this is the main return. This is a Webasto 16,000 BTU. It's also a heat pump that heats and cools, and the ducting runs up underneath the decks and all around the boat. And what you can do with this is, by controlling which ducts are open and closed, you can focus the air conditioning on the salon, or in the salon on the forward cabin, or just in the aft cabin. For example, when you're sleeping at night, you can just keep this cabin cool. The thermostat for it is right here. So here we have a carbon monoxide smoke detector, a quad duplex, which is really convenient for charging things and putting them up on this shelf. These lights are actually under cabinet lights, and they're dimmable. And here we have a dual USB-C and USB-A charging port. Just about anywhere you sit down on the boat, there's a place to charge your laptop or your phone. Now back here in the aft cabin, we have blackout blinds. And these blackout blinds completely black it out here. So if you're sleeping during the day because you're running 4-hour watches, when these things are down, there's no light. Up here is a shelf which you can store a lot of stuff on, and the 3 hooks that you see up there allow you to run a cargo net from there down to here so that you can pile this as high as you possibly can with stuff and keep it from moving in a seaway. Up here are towel racks, and you can hang 2 full-size bath towels, 1 on each one, and that allows you to dry the towels without leaving them in the head. Over here in the corner we have another hanging locker, and what you see inside there is the battery charger for the engine bank. It's located close to the engine bank so that the wiring is very short, and underneath there is the air conditioning duct that runs back into the main part of the boat. This is a pretty good sized locker. I kept all my clothes here, and Dorina kept all her clothes in the front, and we had lots and lots of room. Over here is the privacy door for the aft cabin. So you slide this and you close this, and you have the cabin all to yourself, and if you're running the boat and sleeping back here, you don't have any noise or anything coming from the pilot house. Down here in the steps you have enormous storage spaces, and this is also how you get to the stuffing box. These steps basically pull out, you lift up the floor, and the stuffing box is right there, and it has very, very easy access. This switch allows you to completely disconnect the start bank from the boat, and when you're anchoring, this gives you the peace of mind that if you run the number 2 bank completely dead, you'll still be able to start the boat because it has a hard disconnect, and there's no way that the battery can discharge even if you put the switch in the wrong position. It's a nice little safety feature. Over here on the other side of the aft cabin, we have the space underneath the bunk. This first space contains the holding tank. SeaMoose has a 30-gallon holding tank, which was enormous for a boat this size. And even though the thought of sleeping on top of the holding tank might be worrisome, it's dual vented. There's a vent on both sides so air can flow through it. And what this means is the line from the head to the holding tank is about that long. So when you flush the toilet, it makes it all the way into the tank. Over on this side is an enormous locker that goes all the way back underneath the bunk this way and all the way back this way. We had a set of Sterlite containers that fit in there like a Rubik's Cube, and a scuba tank and a brownie setup, and they all fit under there easily. I had 4 small Sterlite containers the size of the door so I could slide them out, and that's where I kept shirts, pants, and clothes dry while I was on the boat. This bunk, which has a custom 8-inch foam mattress, is extremely comfortable and nice and firm, and you have this lovely reading light, and you get an amazing view of the TV. It's like watching a movie screen. So we have a 32-inch HD TV here, which is connected to the boat antenna up on the flybridge, and it's absolutely huge when you're in here at night. And then under here, we have the boat's media server. This is a Dell desktop PC with 4 gigabytes of memory, and this is a 4 terabyte hard drive, and it's all attached into this little custom tray so that it can't slide around. The plug that's inside this cabinet is connected to the Freedom 1000 inverter, so when you're at anchor and on battery power, you can run the media server and the television, and you can watch movies. There are approximately 3,000 movies on that hard drive, so you can cruise a long time and still have something to watch. There's room in the bottom of this cabinet for additional storage, and then you've got a nice drawer here, which is like your bedside drawer where you can keep all kinds of odds and ends, and another shelf that you can use to store your devices or put a clock on there or whatever. When we ran the boat, we had the Starlink Wi-Fi router right here attached with Tyra. This is the main head on SeaMoose, and everyone that comes on board this boat cannot believe how large this head is. I mean, there's room to walk around in here. It features a Raritan Marine Elegance head. It's about $1,000 head. It's the finest marine head that money can buy, and the boat comes with a spare macerator pump, which is a good idea when you only have one head on the boat. So here we have a sink, and a wand shower with a separate set of controls. There's a nice medicine cabinet in here, which is pretty good size. And then we've got a couple of towel racks over on this side. The bottom has a teak grate and a shower drain, and this turns the pump on and off. So you shower until it's about half full, and then you pull this switch and the pump runs and pushes it overboard. And then we've got a nice shower curtain to keep the door from getting wet when you shower. This is a very comfortable head. There's a 5-gallon water heater, and there's 2 75-gallon water tanks underneath the lazarette and the aft deck. So with 150 gallons of water, we could both shower and run on those water tanks for 4 or 5 days before even starting to get worried about running out of water. Speaking from someone who lived on the boat for almost 400 days, the toilet is very comfortable to sit on. And here you can see the medicine cabinet and the mirror. The floor of the head was completely re-glassed and then coated with several coats of paint, so that should be good for many, many, many years. So starting in the main salon, we're going to tour it from the starboard side to the port side. So here we're looking at the back corner. This is another one of those under counter lights that's dimmable. And this is really nice on low at night when you leave the boat at the dock. It kind of keeps it softly illuminated inside, but not so bright. Got a 110 plug back there. That's one of the speakers for the Fusion stereo. And then we've got a nice rod holder that sits right above the dinette. The dinette is extremely comfortable. We're going to show you this table in just a minute, and you'll see how this works. With the table folded closed, this is exactly big enough for a laptop, and because of the fiddles on the table, the laptop won't slide off the table, which is really handy. Underneath this side of the settee, on this side, you have 2 more house batteries. SeaMoose has 4 12-volt batteries in the house bank. This is an air conditioning duct. This is the Freedom 1000 inverter control panel, which gives you the status of the system. Right now it's in top-off charge. As is typical with SeaMoose, anywhere you sit down you can plug in a laptop. So we've got 2 USB ports here. And then we've got a cigarette lighter plug port here, so you can plug in a spotlight or another little adapter to plug in laptops. Here we have a bus heater. So the heat from the engine is routed through coolant hoses with cutoff switches in the engine room up to underneath this cabinet, and there's a 12-volt heater that draws air in through this vent and then blows out hot air here. And on a very cold day, on the water with the engine running, it gets really toasty in here. It takes a little while because it's just a small heater, but it gets really toasty and it works really well. The dinette table that came from the factory was a huge affair that went all the way to here. And of course, the reason they did that was to claim that the boat would sleep 6 people, 6 very tiny people. So we've built this custom cabinet here that we'll show you in a minute. This table was built by Robert Jensen. He is a extremely famous woodworker here in Ohio. So this is the table folded closed. This is the table folded open. So this is teak with teak trim, and the woodworking and the quality of the work on this table is absolutely beautiful. It's one of my favorite pieces. In this corner we have a very nice settee and the speaker for the Fusion stereo, and a nice little shelf back here. All of the blinds on the boat were brand new. They were purchased just before we went on the loop. Now what's not obvious here is there are 2 recliners built into the boat. Over on that side, because of the angle of the custom helm seat, you can recline, and it's just big enough to stretch out. And over here, this has a nice recliner angle too. So when you're sitting in a rolly anchorage, you can recline here and the first mate can recline there, or vice versa. And then for extra comfort, we've got a cup holder right here, so your coffee cup is right at arm's reach when you're reclining and it won't fall over in the anchorage. Under here we have the main set of kitchen lockers. Now these are very long cabinets which are very difficult to use, so I found these plastic containers. These are designed to go in a catering tray, you know, a catering buffet, and hold cold salads, but they make for really convenient drawers and they fit beautifully. So we have all of our dishes down here, and we have all of our pots and pans and cooking equipment. and they're extremely easy and fast to get to. Over on this side, forward of the settee, we have this beautiful piece of teak custom cabinetry. There's a really nice small cubby in here, which is where we kept wallet and things out of your pocket, and ship's documents and insurance papers and things we wanted to be able to grab quickly. And then we used this as a pantry space. This cabinet is absolutely enormous and is where we kept our pantry. There are Sterlite containers that fit in here absolutely perfectly, and we will show you what you need or give you the ones that we have. 4 containers stack in here, and you can slide them in and out just like drawers. And this is just a beautiful piece of teak wood, and it has a secondary function. You flip this up, and you now have a very comfortable helm seat that's very, very sturdy, and you have a footrest, and if it gets really rough, you can brace yourself in like this and be very comfortable. This is how we crossed the Gulf, is sitting right here. So as an ex-sailboater, I like being down on the deck and not up on the flybridge. The flybridge is wonderful on a nice, beautiful day, but any other time, I really like being down here. It's very quiet, because the motor on this boat doesn't make a lot of noise, and so most of the ship's electronics and control systems are designed to be run from here. So this is obviously your throttle and gear shift. This is for the bow thruster. This is the hour meter. This is the original ship's electrical panel that also contains the 110 volt circuitry and breaker boxes for the boat. Up here you have gauges for each of the 4 fuel tanks. We'll get into that when we look at the engine room. You have a secondary depth finder. There's a NEMA 2000 network transducer that's connected to the Garmin, and this is a backup, so you have 2 depth sounders, because on the loop, knowing your depth is extremely critical. You've got the traditional engine gauges for temperature, oil pressure, and RPM, starter and horn. This is where the chain runs through that drives the upper drive. So we have 2 VHF radios on board. That's a top-of-the-line ICOM unit right there. That's the main VHF. The secondary VHF is a Garmin unit that also contains an AIS receiver. The AIS receiver is connected to the NEMA 2000 bus, which runs to the chart plotter. What's missing here, because it's back at the house, we don't leave it on the boat, is the 12-inch head unit for the chart plotter. This is a chart plotter that would be suitable for a 50-foot boat. It's a really nice unit. It's like watching TV. And then we have a KVH digital compass, which is on a NEMA 0183 bus and feeds into the chart plotter for secondary heading and direction. So back here, some interesting things. This is for your phone, and what this allows you to do is it allows you to run CNAV or Navionics on the phone while running the chart plotter. This is for your iPad, and we ran Navionics on the iPad, CNAV on the phone, and Garmin on the chart plotter, and between the 3 of them and your eyeballs, you could figure out where you were supposed to be in the channel. This is the Benmar autopilot. This is an analog autopilot. It's very old school, but it works extremely well. It's connected to a drive unit in the flybridge cowling up on the top of the boat. And then back here, you've got 3 cigarette lighter plugs and a charging plug for the VHF. We have a standard Horizon AIS enabled VHF that plugs into that charging unit, and from this you can run a cord to the phone, you can run a cord to the iPad, you can charge both of your phones, you can charge a camera, and you can pretty much charge all the devices on the boat while you're underway. And this is connected to the secondary 12 volt bus, so you know you've got clean 12 volt power right here. On this side we have a gooseneck nav light that's both regular light and red night light. This is a Fusion MSRA70 stereo, which is in the 2 Fusion speakers in the back. It absolutely fills the boat with sound, and it's Bluetooth capable, so you can use your iPhone to stream music to it. Over here in the corner, you've got a large air conditioning duct. You've got another connection for USB charging, and you have a little Wi-Fi router right there that's a 12-volt router. That's connected to a Ubiquiti Bullet Wi-Fi extender on the outside of the boat. We were on Starlink, so we never actually used it. In all fairness, that router is not a very good router, and if you're going to live on Marina Wi-Fi, you're going to want to upgrade that router to something a little smarter. It would work, and then the next day it would forget its configuration and we'd have to reprogram it again. Down here in the corner of the galley, we have the control panel for the generator. SeaMoose has a 3.5 kilowatt next-gen generator system that's in a sound enclosure. You'll see that when we look at the engine room. This switch allows you to switch the refrigerator between the inverter that's on that wall and the 110. So this would be 110, this would be off the inverter. This switch controls the engine room fan, that's the 110 volt fan, so that when you leave the boat, you can leave that little fan running and it will keep air circulating through the boat, which will keep it nice and fresh. So this is the galley area in the main salon, and it has a number of features that makes it really easy to prepare meals when you're either underway or at anchorage. First of all, we have this Magic Chef microwave, which is up and out of the way, and it does look very beefy, and I can assure you that no matter how rough the seas are, this thing is not going to come down and fall down. This is really handy for heating coffee and reheating meals and things like that. Then we have a Magic Chef propane range, and this is cutting board material. So when you're preparing the meal, you can use this as a cutting board, and then when you're done, you'll fold it up. I'll show you that in a second. This outlet over here is split 50-50. This plug is 110, and this plug goes to the inverter that runs the refrigerator. So when you're underway and you don't have the generator running, you can get 110 power here and charge your laptop or whatever you want to do if it can't work on USB. So when you fold this up, you now have room to cook on the 3-burner stove, and it has a really nice oven, and we made a lot of biscuits and gravy and bread and casseroles and all kinds of good stuff in the oven. This is another custom feature. This cutting board fits over the sink so you can cover up what's in there. This is a Ruvati 3/18 stainless steel commercial bar sink. It is big enough that Yorkshire can swim in it. It has a dry rack that goes in the bottom, and it has a faucet that extends. You can wash a tremendous number of dishes in this sink. The original factory sink was about this big. This thing is big enough and large enough, you can do an amazing amount with it. And it has a really nice strainer basket that goes with it. And when we would get up in the morning and make breakfast, we would take the dishes and put them in the sink, put that in place, out of sight, out of mind. The cook has a nice view out this window, which opens and closes. When I rebuilt the flybridge floor on SeaMoose, I insulated the roof of the salon with 2-inch foam panels. So when the sun is beating down on the cabin, the ceiling in here is cool. It's a really nice feature because normally it's really hard to keep a boat this size cool. So this door covers the refrigerator. The original factory boat had a Norcold 12-volt 110 refrigerator. What I did is I replaced that with a Magic Chef. This is just a regular old Home Depot $120 refrigerator. You can buy 10 of these for what you can buy one Norcold for, and unlike the Norcold, it has a freezer, and the freezer works well enough to keep ice cream. Running this off the inverter, the drain is practically negligible. What you can also see here is where I reinforced this cabinet to hold the weight of the Ruvati sink. So this sink completely full of water is a lot of weight, and this cabinet in the front and the back has been reinforced with these birch supports and additional support alongside the sink and beside it. And then over here in the corner, you've got two double duplex GFCI outlets for your kitchen appliances, coffee maker. And then up here, you've got a really nice little pantry with built-in little cup holders, and nice and padded and clean in there. So lots of kitchen storage. And even though you have this enormous sink, there's still a lot of room in here for storage. And then you've got two huge drawers down here, which you can use to store your cutlery and your knives and spatulas and all that good stuff. So I hope you've enjoyed this tour of the interior. I've probably left a lot of things out because there's been a lot of modifications and changes. If you watch episode 3 of our YouTube channel, you can see the complete restoration process of the boat, and you can see what this all looks like torn completely apart.